Have you ever felt exhausted after a conversation or interaction without understanding exactly why? Perhaps it was that nagging feeling of insecurity, a silent doubt about the other person's intentions. The truth is that some people, even without realizing it, can erode our trust and shake our emotional balance, creating confusion and exhaustion. This content is designed to help you recognize subtle signs of manipulation, superficiality, and duplicity, allowing you to protect your peace and strengthen your inner security. Throughout the text, you'll learn to identify behaviors that indicate disinterest, toxicity, or constant criticism, and how to act assertively without losing empathy. Imagine being able to read people clearly, avoiding frustrations and relationships that don't add up. It's not about closing yourself off from the world, but about making room for those who truly deserve your trust. Each behavior you'll learn about here is an invitation to reflection. How can you maintain your peace of mind and not be swayed by other people's insecurities? Observation as a basis for trust. Observing is much more than just seeing. It's noticing nuances, gestures, silences, and words that carry hidden intentions. When we pay attention, we begin to identify patterns that indicate whether someone is acting sincerely or whether there are risks to our well-being. This care isn't exaggerated distrust or a lack of cordiality. It's protecting yourself from subtle manipulation and superficial relationships. By noticing how people respond under pressure or in moments of conflict, you gain clarity about who deserves your trust and who tends to create insecurity. Small signs, such as inconsistency between words and actions, are precious clues. With this practice, you strengthen yourself internally, cultivating confidence based on observation and experience. It's an exercise in attention that allows you to act calmly, without being drawn into conflict or other people's duplicity. Furthermore, learning to interpret these signs helps maintain balanced relationships. A simple trick is to mentally note recurring situations and how each person reacts. This solid foundation of observation makes it easier to distinguish true friendship from superficial interest. Observing also consciously strengthens our empathy. When you notice behavioral patterns, you can better understand others' motivations without getting swallowed up in their frustrations. This prevents small disagreements from generating unnecessary toxicity and conflict. For example, if a coworker constantly reacts critically or in a duplicitous manner, noticing this in time allows you to protect your own peace. At the same time, observation helps you recognize people who truly care, who don't easily replace bonds, and who offer genuine trust. This practice can be practiced in simple, everyday situations. Observing how someone treats a waiter, how they react in lines, or in moments of pressure. Every detail is an opportunity for learning and emotional growth. Gradually, this attention transforms into inner security, allowing you to act with serenity. It's a form of silent self-defense that doesn't need to be announced. Cultivating this awareness makes you less vulnerable to manipulation and destructive criticism, and it also helps you filter worthwhile relationships. Practicing observation consistently is like training a muscle. The more we exercise, the more natural it becomes to notice subtle signs of insecurity and superficiality in others. Start by dedicating a few minutes a day to observing interactions around you without immediate judgment, simply noting patterns. Over time, you'll notice how much easier it becomes to trust, not blindly, but with discernment. This avoids frustration and protects your self-esteem. Furthermore, by recognizing manipulative or duplicitous behaviors, you can set clear boundaries without feeling guilty. By identifying behaviors that don't add up, the choice to keep your distance or get closer becomes conscious and healthy. This practice is also a way to cultivate patience and tranquility, concepts dear to Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to control our own minds rather than trying to control others. Thus, the trust born from observation is solid, resilient, and less susceptible to being shaken by conflict or other people's disinterest. Constant critics. Living with people who incessantly point out flaws is an exercise in patience and self-awareness. More often than not, these critics expose more about their own insecurities than about the recipient of their observations. It's as if each negative comment is a way of projecting their frustrations and reinforcing the superficiality of their inner world. Recognizing this pattern is essential to preserving your confidence and self-esteem. When you realize that someone constantly seeks to find flaws, you learn to filter what deserves attention and what should be left aside. Remember, sharing secrets or vulnerabilities with this type of person is an invitation to manipulation or duplicity. Remaining calm in the face of unfair criticism strengthens your resilience, allowing you to observe without reacting impulsively. A simple trick is to listen, reflect, and separate what is valuable from what is merely toxic. This way, you protect your emotional space and avoid falling into exhausting cycles of mistrust. Constant criticism also invites introspection. When someone insists on pointing out mistakes, it's common to feel insecure and question your own choices. But this is when you can cultivate self-confidence. By discerning what truly resonates with you and what is merely a reflection of someone else's negativity. Instead of reacting emotionally, try to observe the pattern and learn from it without letting it wear you down. For example, if a colleague constantly criticizes your work, focus on constructive feedback and ignore superficial or malicious comments. This practice strengthens your emotional autonomy and reduces the impact of subtle manipulation, making you less vulnerable to conflict and frustration. Furthermore, living with constant critics is a wake-up call to establish clear boundaries. Not every comment needs to be debated or responded to. By recognizing someone's tendency to spread negativity, you learn to choose where to invest energy and trust. Developing this attitude doesn't mean a lack of empathy. On the contrary, you can understand that someone else's insecurity shouldn't define your emotional state. Trust built this way is solid, as it's based on observation, reflection, and the protection of one's own peace. Over time, these experiences teach you to differentiate constructive criticism from personal attacks, strengthening your ability to act with composure even in toxic or conflicting environments. Friends of all, some people seem to have a knack for pleasing everyone, smiling at every face and constantly seeking approval. At first glance, this may seem like charm or friendliness, but it often hides superficiality. True bonds are built with attention, empathy, and mutual investment, not with automatic gestures of approval. When someone is constantly trying to win applause or acceptance, there's a risk of duplicity. You can easily be replaced when attention shifts to another target. Observing small signs of disinterest or inconsistency between words and actions helps identify this masked insecurity. Protect yourself without closing yourself off. Treat these relationships with care and awareness, prioritizing those who truly demonstrate genuine commitment. Insecurity arises from unequal exchange. People who try to be friends with everyone often prioritize their own image over authentic connections. This can lead to frustration because you invest energy, empathy, and trust, but receive superficiality in return. A simple example: imagine someone who is always present on social media, praising other people's posts, but who in real life rarely offers support or attention. Recognizing this difference prevents emotional burnout and protects your confidence. When approaching someone like this, practice observation and set boundaries, maintaining clarity about who deserves your dedication. Furthermore, spending time with everyone's friends teaches you about emotional priorities. Not every contact needs to generate a deep bond, and that's natural. By recognizing patterns of superficiality, you learn to invest in relationships that offer reciprocity, empathy, and true trust. This doesn't mean judging or rejecting them outright, but acting with discernment, preserving your inner peace. A good practice is to value small, consistent gestures and attitudes that demonstrate genuine care. Over time, you become more adept at filtering who deserves presence and trust, avoiding unnecessary insecurity and wear and tear. Cultivating this awareness is an important step toward strengthening your emotional balance and ensuring your relationships are healthy and meaningful. Subtle manipulators. Subtle manipulators are masters of emotional games, often imperceptible at first glance. They can distort situations, making you question your own perception and gradually undermining your autonomy. Insecurity arises precisely because boundaries become blurred. You feel responsible for constantly pleasing, explaining, or justifying your choices. Recognizing signs like induced guilt, ulterior motives, or abrupt changes in behavior is essential to protecting yourself. The key is to establish clear boundaries, assertively communicating what is acceptable and what is not. When you maintain your own space, it becomes easier to maintain self-confidence and avoid unnecessary conflict. Another important point is to recognize duplicity in actions. Subtle manipulators can alternate between affection and criticism, creating a cycle of emotional confusion. This alternation triggers insecurity and drains your energy, making it difficult to trust your own judgment. An effective strategy is to mentally document these patterns and discuss only concrete situations, avoiding being drawn into provocations or psychological games. Cultivating mindfulness helps you identify hidden intentions before they escalate into bigger problems. This also reinforces healthy empathy. You can understand the other person's behavior without allowing yourself to be used or harmed. Finally, dealing with subtle manipulators requires practice and patience. It's not about avoiding all interactions, but about acting with discernment, protecting your self-esteem, and maintaining composure. By recognizing manipulation and maintaining clear boundaries, you reduce insecurity and strengthen your inner confidence. This approach allows for more authentic and less draining interactions, preventing superficiality and other people's disinterest from influencing your decisions. A useful exercise is to reflect daily on relationships that drain energy versus those that rebuild it, helping you prioritize healthy connections. Over time, awareness of these signs becomes second nature, making you more resilient in the face of conflict and less susceptible to toxic influences. Lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is a clear sign of an unbalanced relationship. People who can't put themselves in another person's shoes often don't hesitate to cause pain to achieve their own goals. This behavior creates insecurity because you never know if you can count on support or understanding in difficult moments. Recognizing this lack of sensitivity is an essential step in protecting your emotional peace. By identifying selfish or disinterested attitudes, you learn to set boundaries and prioritize relationships that offer reciprocity. Healthy empathy is built on genuine exchange, and noticing its absence helps you narrow down who deserves your trust and attention. Furthermore, living with individuals lacking empathy can lead to deep frustration. They tend to disregard the feelings of others, creating situations of manipulation or duplicity. Insecurity sets in when one tries to compensate for the other's lack of interest by taking on responsibilities that aren't theirs. A good exercise is to evaluate whether your actions are reciprocated or simply ignored. If there's no reciprocity, it's time to reevaluate your emotional investment. Protecting yourself means recognizing that your well-being doesn't depend on the approval or understanding of these individuals. This strengthens self-confidence and reduces vulnerability to criticism and manipulation. Finally, understanding the dynamics of a lack of empathy helps cultivate more conscious relationships. Appreciate those who demonstrate genuine interest, attentive listening, and actions that reflect true care. Small signs, such as attention to detail or support in times of difficulty, are indicators that the bond is solid. Avoiding unbalanced relationships isn't selfish. It's self-care. With practice, you develop the ability to act with empathy without exposing yourself to others' toxicity, protecting your energy and building lasting trust. This way, you can maintain healthy relationships, reduce insecurity, and strengthen emotional resilience in the face of challenges. Facade listeners. Fake listeners are those who appear to be paying attention but are actually distracted, responding automatically, or showing subtle signs of disinterest. This behavior undermines trust in the dialogue because it creates insecurity about the authenticity of the communication. It's frustrating to share thoughts, feelings, or ideas only to realize the other person isn't truly present. Identifying these behaviors is important to protect your inner peace. Often, disinterest may simply be superficiality or a lack of empathy, but it can still be enough to cause emotional distress. By noticing patterns like constant interruptions or vague responses, you learn to filter out who is truly worth investing your energy and attention with. Furthermore, living with fake listeners reinforces the need to establish clear boundaries. Not every interaction needs to be deep, and recognizing when someone doesn't offer genuine attention helps avoid conflict and frustration. Insecurity arises when seeking validation from someone who isn't emotionally available. A useful practice is to observe how the person reacts in different contexts. If the attention is selective or merely superficial, it's a sign that your energy may be wasted. By acting consciously, you preserve your trust and reduce the impact of manipulation or duplicity, maintaining composure even in fragile interactions. Finally, dealing with fake listeners invites reflection on emotional priorities. Cultivating relationships with those who demonstrate empathy and genuine interest strengthens inner resilience. Small signs of genuine presence, such as active listening or remembering important details, indicate trustworthy bonds. Avoiding draining dialogues with those who don't care isn't indifference. It's self-care and protection against toxicity. Over time, you develop the discernment to invest energy strategically, maintaining self-confidence and emotional calm in interactions that could generate insecurity. People living in trouble. Some people seem drawn to constant conflict, often the result of their own choices or repetitive behavior patterns. Living with this type of person can generate insecurity, as there's a risk of being sucked into a cycle of problems that aren't theirs. The tendency is to get involved in dramas, arguments, and stressful situations without realizing it. Observing the frequency and intensity of these conflicts helps you define clear boundaries and protect your inner peace. It's essential to maintain emotional distance when necessary, preventing your challenges from becoming entangled with those of others. Learning to discern what is your responsibility and what belongs to others is a fundamental step toward strengthening personal trust. Furthermore, these people may demonstrate a genuine disinterest in finding solutions, preferring to perpetuate crises and fueling the toxicity around them. Insecurity arises when you constantly try to fix or intervene, wasting energy that could be dedicated to your own growth. A useful strategy is to objectively assess the situation, what you can actually change and what you need to accept without getting emotionally involved. By doing so, you protect your self-esteem and avoid emotional burnout, maintaining balance even in the midst of complicated relationships. Finally, dealing with people experiencing problems teaches you about priorities and boundaries. Not every bond needs to be intense or decisive. Some connections simply require caution and observation. By recognizing patterns of conflict and acting with discernment, you strengthen your resilience and reduce the influence of duplicity or manipulation. This care allows you to cultivate healthier relationships based on true empathy and reciprocity, preventing external insecurities from eroding your inner confidence. With practice, it becomes easier to maintain clarity, act with serenity, and protect your emotional well-being in challenging situations. Disguised provocateurs. Disguised provocateurs are those who irritate or confuse you almost invisibly, using small actions or words that gradually erode your balance. They may make subtle comments, create doubts, or drop hints, all while maintaining a veneer of innocence. This behavior triggers insecurity because you begin to question your perceptions and intentions. Recognizing these patterns is essential to maintaining clarity and self-confidence. A helpful trick is to repeatedly observe how these situations unfold and what their results are. If there's constant manipulation or duplicity, it's time to create emotional distance and protect your space. Furthermore, living with disguised provocateurs teaches the importance of assertiveness. When you notice small provocations, you can respond directly without being aggressive, reinforcing your boundaries and demonstrating confidence. This approach reduces toxicity in the relationship and helps preserve your energy. It's also important not to internalize every attack or comment, maintaining discernment about what truly deserves attention. This prevents other people's insecurity from turning into self-doubt. By acting consciously, you protect yourself and maintain more balanced relationships, filtering who deserves your emotional investment. Finally, identifying disguised provocateurs strengthens confidence and resilience. Learning to strategically address these behaviors allows for healthier interactions, reducing burnout and avoiding unnecessary conflict. This care also helps cultivate genuine empathy with those who show care and respect, distinguishing them from those seeking to manipulate or confuse. With practice, you become more skilled at protecting your inner peace and avoiding psychological games. The clarity gained through this process helps maintain serenity and security in all relationships, preventing small acts of duplicity from shaking your confidence. Toxic people. Toxic people are those who drain energy, reinforce insecurities, and constantly spread negativity. Being around them invites emotional exhaustion and duplicity, as they often manipulate or belittle you without you immediately realizing it. Recognizing signs of toxicity is essential to protecting your confidence and maintaining balance in your personal and professional life. By identifying patterns of destructive criticism, disinterest, and superficial behavior, you can establish clear boundaries and avoid getting sucked into conflicts that aren't yours. This awareness also strengthens your inner security, allowing you to act assertively without losing empathy. Furthermore, living with toxic people teaches the importance of filtering relationships and prioritizing healthy connections. By recognizing who drains energy or spreads negativity, you learn to direct your attention to those who truly add value. A useful exercise is to evaluate how you feel after each interaction. Fatigue, irritation, or insecurity are signs that the relationship needs boundaries or distance. Protecting yourself doesn't mean ignoring or judging without reason, but maintaining clarity about what is beneficial and what is detrimental to your well-being. With practice, you develop emotional discernment and prevent other people's toxicity from affecting your peace. Ultimately, dealing with toxic people is an invitation to emotional self-defense and strengthen personal confidence. Creating healthy barriers, limiting contact, and investing in genuine relationships reduces the influence of superficiality, manipulation, and destructive criticism. This approach protects your energy, allows you to cultivate true empathy, and helps maintain clarity in the face of conflict. By recognizing harmful behaviors and acting consciously, you transform stressful relationships into learning experiences, strengthening resilience and inner security. This way, you can build a light, balanced, and duplicitous environment, promoting emotional tranquility and lasting trust. Throughout this content, you've identified behaviors that erode confidence and trigger insecurities. Constant critics, subtle manipulators, superficial or toxic people. The next step is to put what you've learned into practice. Notice patterns, set clear boundaries, and invest energy in genuine relationships. Ask yourself, am I allowing someone to drain my energy or undermine my confidence? Do my relationships strengthen my inner security or create unnecessary stress? Reflecting on these questions helps you act consciously and protect your peace. Furthermore, cultivating healthy empathy, self-confidence, and emotional resilience is essential. Practice mindful observation, learn to distinguish constructive criticism from personal attacks, and don't feel guilty about setting boundaries. By doing so, you transform stressful experiences into learning experiences and strengthen your ability to maintain balanced relationships, avoiding superficiality and duplicity. Small daily habits, such as reflecting on interactions and prioritizing those who demonstrate genuine care, can create significant changes in how you relate to the world. Finally, remember, protecting your confidence is an act of self-care. Start applying these practices today, strengthening your inner security and cultivating bonds that truly add value. Reflect, act, and observe how your life can become lighter and more balanced. And if you want to continue receiving valuable guidance for healthier relationships and lasting self-confidence, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Transformation begins with small steps, and each conscious decision strengthens your inner peace.